What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Rob. I like to play games, and welcome back to the Commander Corner. Today, we're going to take a look at a Spider-Man themed deck. Spider-Man headline deck, let's say that much. I don't know how much Spider-Man theme is actually in here. And I know, get the groans out now. It's not the most popular set out there, but that's quite alright. I think you're going to find that this one is rather interesting. The commander we are going to be playing today takes things to a different level than what we expected, and with the Marvel Hero set coming out later this year, well, actually next month, to be quite honest, I figured it'd be a good jumping point to do a Marvel-based commander this time as well. So let's jump in to the deck profile and see what we've got. Alright, and here we are. Here is our commander. We are playing Spider-Man 2099. He's a 2-cost commander, 1 red, 1 blue, so we are playing Izzet. He's a 2/3 double strike vigilance that says at the beginning of your end step, if you played a land or cast a spell this turn from anywhere other than your hand, Spider-Man 99 deals damage equal to his power to any target. That includes creatures, players, you name it, we're going to start burning it. Now, there is a downside to Spider-Man 99 or 2099. And that is you cannot cast him during your first, second, or third turns of the game. Now, that might seem like a pretty drastic downside, and I'll be honest, it's not the most exciting one. However, that does give us a solid game plan, as well as a path to set up before we get our commander in place. So yes, this commander is not coming into play till turn 4, but hopefully by then, we'll have everything set up and ready to go for our commander, as well as our game plan. So let's get into that game plan. And here is the list again. Will be posted in the video description to my Architect link, so be sure to check that out if you want a more in-depth look at the cards we have here. So this is our future Spider deck that we are building. Now, the premise of this deck is going to be utilizing the Paradox mechanic, which is whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, it doesn't affect. So like the Flaming Tyrannosaurus here, well, it's a big guy. He's a 5/5 menace. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, Flaming Tyrannosaurus deals 3 damage to any target. This includes opponents, remember. And then you put a +1/+1 counter on him. And then when he dies, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. So we're kind of going for a burn theme here. Same thing with Keeper of Secrets. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, it deals damage equal to that spell's mana value. Unstable Amulet. This is going to be for the early game chip damage. Yes, I understand that, you know, it's an energy payoff card. Totally get that. We're not running a lot of energy in this deck. However, the initial, 2 energy you get pays for its own mechanic, which is great. So we can tap it to exile something to trigger our commander, as well as the fact that it says whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Again, just giving us that way to, repeatedly burn out the table. Shadow of the Goblin, very similar thing here. Beginning of your first main phase, discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Yes, that's meant for a different mechanic. However, whenever you play a land or cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, 1 damage to each opponent. Again, just stacking up those burn triggers. And then lastly, Passionate Archaeologist. Probably one of the more expensive cards in this deck, but commander creatures you own have, when you cast a spell from exile, this creature deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to target opponent. And then lastly, in our burn category, we've got Memory Worm. Paradox, whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, Memory Worm deals 2 damage to target player. That player discards a card, then draws a card. Put a +1/+1 counter on Memory Worm. You can choose yourself with this. If you need a little more card draw, you can do that. If you'd rather just burn out your opponent and force them to discard something, that's not too bad either. Plus, he gets bigger. So that is our burn package. We also have a couple of clone effects here. We've got the Spider-Verse. Legend rule doesn't apply to spiders you control. When you cast a spell from anywhere from your hand, you can copy it. If you do, you may choose new targets for the copy. If the copy is a permanent spell, it gains haste only once per turn. So the first turn we cast from exile each turn is going to be copied with Spider-Verse. And Nafelshni, I hope I pronounced that right. It's one of those wonderful demons from D&D in the Baldur's Gate set. And that does the same thing. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, copy it. If it's a permanent, gains haste, and at the beginning of your end step, sacrifice that permanent. So unlike Spider-Verse, where it stays into play, Nafelshi makes us exile it, but that's not bad either. Again, we're getting copies of these spells. We're getting to play more and more things. How are we, powering through that? Well, we've got some pretty decent things here. We've got Inti, Celestial of the Sun. Whenever you attack, you may discard a card. When you do, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature. It gains trample until end of turn. We can target Spider-Man with that, getting him bigger so that his ability hits harder, which is not a bad thing for us. And then also, whenever you discard one or more cards, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card until the end of your next step. This card does double duty for us. It allows us to not only grow Spider-Man 2099, but also gives us that fuel to play a card from exile, which now lets us burn something for a little bit deeper. Party Thrasher, very similar. Non-creature spells you cast from exile have Convoke. Cool, we're going to be exiling a lot of cards. Beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you may discard a card. If you do, exile the top 2 cards of your library, then choose one of them. You may play that card this turn. Yes, this is Burgi, but we're not really playing it for the Burgi side. We're playing it for the Harnfell, Horn of the Bounty. Discard a card, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. Again, allowing us to repeatedly trigger our Spider-Man. I know this says Bond Beguiling Balandir, but we're using Edgin instead. I'm a D&D nerd, as some of you may know, so we're doing that one. Each non-land card in your hand without Foretell has Foretell. Its Foretell cost is equal to its mana cost reduced by 2. And then during your turn, you may pay 2 mana, exile it from your hand face down, and then you can cast it on a later turn for its Foretell cost. So you're paying 2 mana up front, and then on a later turn, we're going to drop a big spell. Lelia the Blade Reforged, if you've ever played an exile deck, you know how good this card is. Whenever she attacks, you exile a top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Whenever one or more cards are put into exile from your library and or graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on her. Simply amazing card. We are running another background here in Tavern Brawler. Commander creatures you own have at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. This creature gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is that card's mana value, and you may play it. Again, another way for us to pump up our Spider-Man so it deals even more burn. Advanced Reconstruction. This is a new one from Strixhaven. This is from the Lorehold deck specifically. It's kind of costly, but all 3 modes, in my opinion, are very strong. So you want to level this up if you've got the mana to do so. First part is at the beginning of your first main phase, mill a card, then exile a card from your graveyard at random. You may play that card this turn. Okay, cool. We're exiling cards. That's a really solid effect. That's what we want to be doing anyways. Second level, whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, this class deals 2 damage to each opponent. Cool. We're a burn deck. That's kind of our whole thing. We want to be doing that kind of stuff. So, great. Granted, we're not doing a whole lot of flashback or stuff that's manipulating our graveyard, but a little rider effect for some extra burn, we're not going to say no. And then level 3, spells you cast from anywhere other than your hand cost 2 less. Well, cool, that's everything we're trying to do. We're trying to do all of those things. So, while level 2 is probably the weakest of them for us, it's still not bad. We're still going to be able to utilize this by exiling cards with its first ability. We're still going to be burning the table. We're still going to be, continuing our game plan. And then, of course, we're running Kate Sith. 4 mana, 3/3 lucky slots, beginning of combat on your turn, scry 1, then exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. When you exile a card this way, target creature you control gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the card's mana value. Again, another consistent exile effect that also pumps our commander to do more burn damage. So, really cool there. We do have a couple of token makers. We have Araxa, Empress of Mars. Battlecry, when this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0. That's great. It's still a 4 mana 5/4. That's pretty strong. But the real winner here is whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, create a 2/2 red alien creature token. Cool, we'll take that. Free tokens are not bad. They're chump blockers. They help us, win games, gum up the board a little bit. And then we're also running a card from the Warhammer decks, the Lost and the Damned. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control from anywhere other than your hand, or you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, make a 3/3 red spawn creature token. Again, almost everything we're going to be casting in the mid to late game is going to be exiled spells, so this kind of fits exactly what it is we are looking to do. We also have a small theft package here. Again, there are some really good red cards that allow us to steal things and play them from exile. Grenzo, Havoc Razor, exile a top card of that player's life, or whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, choose one. Goad is a nice little protection rider effect. We're probably not going to be using that too often. What we're interested in is the exile a top card of that player's library. Until end of turn, you may cast that card, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast that. Again, our commander doesn't care, if it's our cards or not. It just says that we need to cast a card that's not from our hand, and that's great. Key to the Vault, similar thing here. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, look at that many cards from the top of your library. You may exile a non-land card from among them, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You may cast the exile card without paying its mana cost. Again, we are casting from exile, exactly what we want to do. Ensnared by the Mara, I think this is an underrated card personally. This card is really strong, and I very much advise and recommend looking into playing this card more. For 4 mana, each opponent faces a villainous choice. They either exile cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card, and then you may cast that card without paying its mana cost, or they exile the top 4 cards of their library, and Ensnared the Mara deals damage equal to the total mana value of those exiled cards to that player. So, Commander's a multiplayer game. Each of your opponents are going to do this. So, either they give us a card each, so that's 3 casts from exile. Guess what? Our commander triggers 3 times now. Or they burn. We're happy with either because we're a burn deck at the end of the day. That's kind of what we're doing. We're throwing out burn damage to close out the game. So we'll take either ability at this point. We're also playing Stolen Strategy. Beginning of your upkeep, exile top card of each opponent's library. Until end of turn, you may cast spells from among those exiled, and you may spend mana of any color. Again, just giving us options. And then, of course, the big boy, Etali. I mean, everybody knows what this Etali does. It is one of the most popular, cards in red, in my opinion. And I don't have any facts to back that up, but I'm sure out there it's heavily played. If you don't know what Etali does, whenever it attacks, exile the top card of each player's library, then you may cast any number of those spells without paying their mana costs. Again, multiple triggers on our commander. How are we keeping ourselves safe? Well, we have a bit of a removal package. Offer You Can't Refuse, Pongify, Rapid Hybridization, Arcane Denial. Your typical red-blue counter spells and removals. We're also running Bone Crusher Giant. Adventure cards do pull a little bit of double duty in here. Not only do you get to use the adventure side, but then you get to cast them later from exile, giving us that ability. Brazen Borrower, same thing. Chaos Warp, Delayed Blast Fireball. This kind of helps us with our burn strategy as well as eliminating any threats in play. So it deals 2 damage to each opponent and each creature they control if you pay the 3 mana, or if you foretell it, which, again, pay 2, exile, and then you pay 6 mana later, 4 of anything, and 2 red. If the spell was cast from exile, it deals 5 damage to each opponent and each creature they control instead. Guess what? If we exile this with any of our impulse draw effects, we still get that ability because it was cast from exile. Doesn't care how it was cast, just that it was. We're also using Impending Flux. That is the wrong one. I don't like the foil version of that. 2 of anything, a red. Paradox deals X damage to each opponent and each creature they control, where X is 1 plus the number of spells you've cast from anywhere other than your hand this turn, and it has Foretell. Now it's usually going to be kind of small, but there are going to be some turns where we can do some pretty big damage with this thing, and I think that is where this card really shines. Again, it has foretell, so we can do the manipulating and exiling ourselves. However, it's still going to be very powerful for what we're looking to do. Raven form, kind of just threw this in here because of the foretell cost, just as a way for us to have more removal. Aetherize, return all attacking creatures that are in our hand. Just a nice board wipe to kind of keep this in budget, that like we like to do. If you wanted to go to bracket 3, Cyclonic Rift makes a great change for this one. And then Ultimate Magic Meteor. From Final Fantasy, 6 mana. It deals 7 damage to each creature. If the spell was cast from exile, for each opponent, choose an artifact or land that player controls, destroy the chosen permanents, and it has foretell. This is just kind of a... It's almost like Blasphemous Act, but it's one-sided. And it does have some benefits if we're casting it from exile, which we like to do. Draw package, I'm not going to go too much into here. A lot of our draw is going to be things that give us impulse. So Heroes Hangout, exile top 2 cards of your library, choose one. You can play Expressive Iteration, we all know that one. Opera Love Song, again, has that impulse effect. Reckless Impulse, where do you think it got its name? Yeah, right there. Surge of Brilliance was a fun one that I wanted to throw in here. It's another Paradox card where you draw a card for each spell you've cast this turn from anywhere, as well as you can foretell it. Reality Chip is in here because it allows us to play from the top of our deck. Our commander doesn't care as long as it's played from anywhere but our hands, so there's a good one. And then we're also running Eruth. I kind of wanted to touch on this one, where she's a 3-mana 2/4, and if you would draw a card, exile the top 2 cards of your library instead, and you can play them this turn. Again, our hand is there, but honestly, we're not using it as much as everything else, so we kind of want to be reliant on that exile zone. And then Fibblethip, Lost on the Range. You may look at the top card of your library. Top card of your library has plot. Plot cost is equal to the mana cost. You may plot non-land cards from the top of your library. Again, so to plot something, you cast it to exile, plotted, and then on a later turn, you can play it for free. Again, this gives us another way to be doing stuff from exile like we want. Lay up the stage. Again, it's an impulse draw. And if an opponent lost life, you only have to pay a red for it. Really good. Wild Wasteland is one that I kind of wanted to try in here. Similar to Aerith, or not Aerith, Eruth. That's it, Eruth. Where it allows us to exile the top 2 cards of your library because you don't draw anymore. Wild Magic Sorcerer, if you're playing a card from exile, it has Cascade, great. Bonehorde Dracosaur, everybody kind of knows what this card does. It's really strong. Kamiya Celebration, whenever a modified creature you control attacks, exile a top card of your library. This is going to kind of synergize with itself, where whenever you cast a spell from exile, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. We're not doing a whole lot of stuff with modified, but it has a way to do the modifier for us, so we're happy with it. And then lastly, Charred Fourier, beginning of your upkeep, exile a top card of your library. You may play it this turn, or Warp Space once per turn, or once per turn. You may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for a spell you cast from exile. So very nice in there. And then a couple things to touch on in our ramp section. We've got, your normal ramp package: Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Goblin Electromancer, Arcane, or Izzet Signet, Mindstone, Stormcatch Mentor, Talisman. We're running Electro, because it's whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, add red, and you don't lose it. You keep that red as long as Electro's alive, which is great. Interdimensional Web Watch, when it enters, exile the top 2 cards of your library until end of your next turn. You may play those cards. Cool. Yes, it's a 4-mana mana rock that can only use that mana to spend spells from exile, but that's all we're playing, so we're kind of cool with it. Rousing Refrain, this is Mana Geyser that has Suspend, which means it's being played from exile, which is great. And then Sage of the Beyond, it has Foretell, so you can cast it from exile, but also spells you cast from anywhere other than your hand cost 2 less. So with that, that basically covers the deck and what we're looking to do. Let's get into a playtest to kind of show you how things work. Alright, looking at our first hand here. I don't really like this. It doesn't have a whole lot of action. It doesn't let us really set up. We're not going anywhere, so let's mulligan that. This one's a little bit better, but it's a bit slow. We don't really have a lot of mana, but let's try it out. Let's see where this goes. So we'll start there. Turn 2, we'll play that. You know what? Let's get the Passionate Archaeologist going. Turn 3, play another land. Not a whole lot going on right now. But does this say end of next turn we may play those cards? So, okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to light up the stage. And we're going to exile the top 2 cards of our library. Until the end of our next turn, we can play those cards. Like Training Center. Alright, so it's kind of bad here. We didn't really get good hits, so we're just going to cast this one, and we're going to let the Arcane Denial fizzle. Yes, I know it's turn 4. Yes, I know we could play our commander, but we're going to wait. And then, alright, now we will play our commander. And then we're going to, yeah, we'll get this out there. So, we did play our commander, which is going to make us the alien token. Because Spider-Man wasn't from our hand, so that counts. Alright. And then, start of next turn, this card gets exiled, and it's what, top 2 cards? Yeah. Okay, cool. So, now every time we play a exiled card, remember, our commander's going to burn and burn. So we're going to do a lot more burns with this. So, now do you care if there's spells? Yeah, so Paradox only works on spells, so the land doesn't count. However, Spider-Man still burns at the end step, which is great. Oop, that was a misclick. Let's let those go away. And then this deals damage equal to the spell's mana value. So, and what else did we get here? Beginning of your upkeep, exile top card of each opponent's library. We can cast them. Okay. So let's do that. We'll play it. So that means we're going to get a warrior. Table's going to burn for 5. Or target opponent's going to burn for 5, right? Yep. And then Spider-Man at the end of our turn is going to shoot something. And then at the upkeep, so we exile 2 cards here. And we also get like 3 more spells from here. And this keeps going. You know, and maybe we gotta go, okay, we'll play this, We got a few more other things from our opponents, and soon enough, we're balling out of control here. Let's try another game. Okay, I kind of like this. So we're going to start with the Snarl. We'll reveal an island. Cool. Let's play Inti. Next turn. So at this point, we'll play this. We're going to want to wait on this one just until we can guarantee there's 8 other lands. You know, but that's fine. So then, whenever you discard one or more exile, when you may play that card until your next end steps. That's only going to work for this turn, so we're probably not going to do that. But how about we Brazen Borrower and exile something? Okay. So this is on an adventure now. Cool. Next turn, we'll do that, and then sure, let's bring out our Spider-Man. Cool. We'll attack. Let's discard a card and exile. Okay. Well, now we can cast this for its for suspend. So we'll suspend 3 it. Sure, we didn't cast anything from exile this turn. However, you know, Spider-Man's going to see it next turn. Like this. So what if we now went You know what? Let's bring in the Brazen Borrower. Ping. And we'll attack with Inti again. Let's discard the Pongify, exile the top card, Rapid Hybridization. Sure, we'll play that too. This goes down. We'll play this. Beginning your first main phase, mill a card, then exile a card from your graveyard at random. You may cast it. Cool. Attack with him again. Let's discard you. Exile. Okay, well we didn't get to play that, but that's okay. Start of next turn. This goes off. Trigger Spider-Man's now on the stack. This goes back. Let's say we gained, I don't know, 5 red. Seems fair, right? And then beginning of first main phase, we're gonna mill a card and then exile at random, right? Exile a card at random. Sure. So we'll just... So we got 5 cards there. Cool. Let's roll a die. Do a d6, reroll on 6s. 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3. We got Rapid Hybridization. We can play that this turn. So we got 5 mana. You know what? Let's spend... Let's just spend it. Boom. Atali. And we're just gonna keep going. So I hope that gives you guys kind of an idea of what the deck's looking to do. Let's go back to the deck and take a look at the maybe board. All right, and then I've got 6 cards here in the maybe board for us to look at. A number of them are game changers. About half are. The other half are just expensive cards that I think would be good for this deck that maybe you want to think of. So first we've got Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer. Ragavan's just great. When he deals combat damage to player, create a treasure token and exile the top card of that player's library. Until end of turn, you may cast it. Again, we're casting from exile. That's all we care about. So really cool there. Cyclonic Rift, game changer. You all know what it does. It's a beautiful card. Does a lot of sweet things. Mostly in being a one-sided board wipe. Deflecting Swat, we want to keep our commander around. Deflecting Swat's great at doing that. It is a bit pricey though, and you know, if you're playing in a meta that has a lot of targeted removal and things of that nature, this card might be just what you're looking for. However, it is expensive. There are other alternatives, but I wanted to just highlight that one. Same thing with Fierce Guardianship. Great free counter spell, counters target non-creature spell. Our deck is reliant on our commander, who is relatively cheap, doesn't come out till turn 4, so we've got some time. Last game changer, Jeska's Will. So, again, it's add a red for each card in target opponent's hand. Cool, great. And then exile top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. This is exactly what you want in this style of deck. I see no reason why you wouldn't want that. And then lastly, Improvisation Capstone. This is a new one from Strixhaven. 7 mana, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile cards with total value 4 or greater. You may cast any number of spells from among them without paying their mana cost. And then Paradigm, it happens every turn. So it's just a way for us to kind of cap off the game and continue to drop threats, as well as trigger all of our exile strategies and things of that nature. So with that, we're going to bring this video to a close. I do appreciate you all taking the time to watch our video here today. If you want to see more content like this, please like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff. So that you get notifications of every time I post a video. We post videos for the Commander Corner every Saturday, so make sure to do that. Please check out some of my other videos as well if you have the time. I would really appreciate that. We are trying to get our view count and sub count up, so please like, comment, share, subscribe, all that great stuff. You can find the deck list again at the description of the video, as well as a link to the Jungle Games Entertainment Discord. I'm a member there. And please, you know, if you have questions, comments, concerns, want to send me a commander you want to get featured on this channel, go ahead and send me that question. I'd be happy to answer it, as well as make a video if it's something that seems really interesting or something that we want to look into. I want to keep expanding. I want to do things that you all enjoy. So with that, though, I again thank you all so very much. I do hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And until next time, my name is Rob. I like to play games, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Take care, everybody.